Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/Scott P. Gallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you a weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, February 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes, as well as our YouTube channel. This week, we've got a few different things to cover. I'm excited this week. I've got a friend in town. Gentleman's name is Jem Webb, and we're going to be bringing Jem on the line. Jem is also an internet marketer from Canada. Jem has worked in the tourism industry and has had a lot of experience in the corporate world in regards to working with graphic design and video work and whatnot. And also has an agency out of Owen Sound, Ontario. So we're going to probe Jem with a few different questions and take the opportunity while he's in the office here. We had a little bit of fun over the weekend, and have just been working really hard here at the office and getting some things together and whatnot. And I'm very excited because we've got some new things happening for Local Marketing Source in the next couple of months that I'm be very excited to get together for both students of Local Marketing Source and our general audience as well. All right, so this week, as a review, I want to talk a little bit about getting reviews and our review acquisition at Local Marketing Source, and that I use at my agency, One Marketing, and how to get reviews because it's becoming more and more important, and we're reading a lot more about it within the industry. I also want to talk about some of this data that has come from Bright Local, Miles has discussed, and diving into some of the data and how small and medium businesses are really divided on the effectiveness of Google My Business and Google. And the last thing I want to talk about is Google's knowledge graph. And the last calls over the last couple of weeks, or last couple of months, I've been talking about the knowledge graph and how it relates to local. And I think this is probably one of the most relevant aspects, especially for those that are in the medical field. I'm in the medical field for all argumentative sake, more so the wellness field. But the knowledge graph has incorporated a significant amount of medical data, and how I'm going to talk about that, because there's quite a few more searches on the medical front and looking for content than you'd suspect. All right. Dehydrated today, and I'm drinking on my caffeine and getting it through. Just looking at some of the people in line, nice to see Efren. How are you, man? We've got to get together soon, go over some of the stuff that we need to go over, and bring my project manager on. But it's nice to see you, man, that you're on the line. You can't talk right now because I'm in control of this podcast. We got a podcast. Yay, we got a podcast. I'm actually working on putting together a full production of a podcast and some fun things right now, and it's going to be exciting. Have a full radio show. All right, so reviews, a review acquisition strategy. Any LMS students or anybody that's listening to the recording of this doesn't know what a review acquisition strategy is. It's one of the three pillars of local search. It's a big deal. It's something that I've been predicating for quite some time. In the local marketing industry, we have now started to see a lot more people talking about that. I always like to give a little bit of my perception opinion as to why this is really important. And we know that SEO, by definition, according to Wikipedia or whomever's defining what SEO is, it essentially is the same definition of what marketing is, and that's creating content, distributing that content where our audience resides. We also know that the best form of advertising or marketing that has ever existed and will probably ever exist in my lifetime and yours is word of mouth advertising, WOM, WOM, however you want to put it. You just can't beat it. You use the analogy like, hey, let's say I've got 5 friends and I want to choose a restaurant. Well, of those 5 friends, I know that I'm going to take the advice of some of them, and some of them I'm not going to take the advice from. You know, if I were to ask my sister her advice on a particular dish or a restaurant, I would never have to ask anybody else. My trust in my sister's opinion is ridiculous when it comes to food. And that's just an element of trust that I've built. So I've got a circle of people that, you know, I trust their opinion on food. And if I ever asked them for a recommendation on a local restaurant and they gave me that recommendation, I wouldn't do any more research. I wouldn't need to go to the internet. And that's word of mouth. You know, the deal's closed. You run your agency. Have you ever brought on a client that's a referral of somebody else? I mean, those are the easiest referrals to close because they've already gotten the recommendation. Word of mouth is the best advertising. And us as marketers, if we can leverage that, you know, hey, in our sales department, let's show people our testimonials, how people are happy. Well, we know the testimonials are great, but it's better when you get somebody's picture. Well, a testimonial is better when you have them on video. A testimonial is better when it's not scripted and that person is just talking naturally. Us as human beings intuitively and instinctively know and can read people's physiologies and tonalities much more than you probably think. And when we're delivering a testimonial that's just raw and not scripted, even though they feel uncomfortable, we see that stuff. We hear that. That's the best. You can't get better than that. Well, that's the review acquisition strategy. The review acquisition strategy that we've got essentially just mimics word of mouth advertising. You implement it into all of your clients. My project manager, I mandate them. It's their responsibility. And I've got to hold them accountable to my clients acquiring reviews. Even though it's the client's responsibility and actions to get those reviews, I've got to hold the project manager accountable for achieving that. But it's our job to make it easier and give our clients different tools to acquire those reviews. As an example, we have a postcard with a just a Photoshop file, and we drop in a QR code and keep it at the client's office, and they hand those out. And, we're looking for a 10% turnaround, a 10% conversion. So if they hand out 10 of those, we get one review out of it. But sometimes those don't work. And, we are now implementing an email autoresponder with an email acquisition internally on a web-based system. And so when the secretary recognizes a happy patient, they just ask for their email address, they put it into the computer, and by the time that person gets home, they're already involved in an email autoresponder sequence. So there's different ways to be able to get reviews. Well, not only is getting quantity of reviews important, but also getting quality of reviews. We know about review filters, and you probably should know how some of those review filters work. Essentially, they work off of profile authority, is what we call it. Well, there's different ways to establish profile authority, but basically, for example, on Yelp, somebody that leaves a whole bunch of reviews is going to have greater authority than somebody that's left one review. Somebody that has a lot of friends on Yelp is also going to have a higher authority and trust on Yelp, and their reviews are more likely going to show. So if you had 10 people leave a review, but each of those 10 accounts only had one review in their account, those reviews are not going to show very good on your business page, as opposed to somebody leaving a review that has a lot of trust and authority. Their reviews are going to show up at the top. So as a marketer, it's our job to identify who we call, or what we call, the influencers. Our customers' customers, or in our case, our customers' patients, who have influence and authority on the internet. Well, since you are probably managing your client's social media, you probably have access to their Facebook, and through Yelp, and because of the integration to Facebook, you can identify who's on Yelp and who are friends on Facebook. And those people, if they are friends on Facebook and they've got a profile on Yelp, chances are they have a higher trust and authority towards that particular business because of the integration of the friendships. Remember that example that I gave you initially about if you were trusting a friend to go to a restaurant? Well, the search engines know this, and they recognize that in between friendships that there's an element of value with that. Do you follow that? That because of the integration of Yelp and Facebook, Yelp can see the social graph of Facebook of the friendships, which in turn give more trust over to those Yelp reviewers. So for your clients, you log in to Yelp, connect it to their Facebook account, and you can pull their Facebook friends in, and those that are identified on Yelp, and in turn communicate with those individuals through Yelp to make a request by sending the email template that we've created. You follow that? So in regards to the review acquisition strategy, there's a variety of different ways to encourage patients or customers of your customers to leave these reviews from the high influencers that are out there. And just like acquiring citations or exposure, you're better off to focus in on the the quality of the review as opposed to just merely quantity of reviews. In other words, buying reviews is not going to give you any value at all. Make the efforts to be able to get those. Now, another reminder, not something that was intended to be discussed, but the power of reviews not only increases the trust of an account. By increasing the trust of an account, we know that that increases ranking a bit, or your propensity to rank. So quality reviews from your inner social circle will in turn increase your propensity to rank high. But not only that, reviews are also showing up on the snippets when we have certain searches in the variety of search engines. Well, what do snippets do? Snippets are your propensity to increase click-through rates. So reviews that are showing up, and take, for example, an industry, we call it an industry review standard. And this is something that's relatively new. Again, you take that term, industry review standards, is not something that you're going to find among the internet. We're trying to be a little forward thinking here, but certain industries have averages that are out there. For example, in terms of average reviews, you can take the transportation industry, for example, the dental industry, and let's say a self-awareness or a self-help type of industry. We'll use yoga as an example. So those three types of businesses: a dentist, a cab company, and a yoga firm. Well, how many people wake up in the morning and are super excited about going to the dentist, and the moment that they get there is the first thing they want to do is check in? You don't see that happen. People don't give two shits about going to the dentist. They don't care about the dentist at all. So what do you think is going to be an average review? If somebody's got, what is a propensity to leave a review for a dentist? Oh my God, my mouth hurts as I'm in pain, or I had a hell of a time trying to deal with the front end staff. Or I feel so damn good coming out of the dentist because I'm hooped up on volume. I mean, those types of reviews, what I'm getting at is positive reviews are harder to come by than the negative reviews for dentists. What about an amenity or a commodity like a taxi service? High competition. It is a basic need of transportation. It's not a luxury item. It really doesn't bring us that much fulfillment because it's just trying to help us accomplish our goal and get somewhere else that the fulfillment's involved in the destination, not the journey. So a taxi company and somebody's propensity to leave reviews for a taxi company, again, is going to be somewhat negative, as opposed to, say, a yoga firm that feeds into somebody's ego, that they get to wear those tight pants and show themselves off on social media. They feel good when they come out of a yoga workout. It makes them feel better about themselves. Like I said, it feeds the ego. So services that feed the ego, I guess it's safe to say that the propensity to leave positive reviews is going to be higher. So a yoga studio, on average, an average yoga studio may have an average star rating of 3.5. But a taxi service may be an average of 2.7. And so when you establish the benchmark for your industry of those particular reviews, you can benchmark your clients against those reviews to determine where they're at as a means of measurement. And if you're above what you've determined as an industry average, that's great. So not only are we looking for the quality of the review, but we're also looking in terms of a quantity as well, in terms of numbers. And our goals are obviously to exceed both industry standards in numbers and quality. And by so, we're strengthening that. And when you have that, and that information shows up in the snippet of the SERP, what is that going to do? When you're above industry standards, that's going to increase your CTR, your click-through rate. And we know, for example, that when authorship was actually a thing, and we can show our little profile picture in the SERP of and attach authorship to it, spot number 2 and spot number 3 had a higher click-through rate than spot number 1 that didn't have any authorship. Well, that time is all long gone, and I don't even know why Google went forward with that in the first place, because of course it was going to be abused. I mean, come on, some stupid engineers over at Google throws that out. And you remember, what was it, 3% of websites utilized authorship, but over 40% of the results at one point in time had sites with authorship in it? Do you think that the average small and medium business owner that's trying to manage their own site, which a good portion of businesses do, at least according to sites like Bright Local, that is over 30%, why would you cannibalize them with stupid technicalities like authorship? It didn't make any sense. But that's despite the point. We're talking about snippets and click-through rates and having the reviews in it. So now that we've established that reviews increase ranking, reviews also increase the the click-through rate, well, that's your internet marketing equation. That's traffic plus conversion. So why would you not make a review acquisition strategy a very important piece of your internet marketing mix? There's a third piece that is highly missed in terms of what reviews do for us. Again, this is not something that you're going to read about elsewhere. I've been saying this for years, and the evidence is clearly there. But let's get away from the internet for a moment. And again, we got Nick on the line. I just talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and people just don't seem to get it. Nick nailed it. But it's like, what else does review do in terms of our service area? Well, take, for example, a chiropractor again. And you got New York City versus a chiropractor in Iowa. Well, the service area of the chiropractor in Iowa is going to cover a greater geographical area than the chiropractor that's downtown Manhattan. Now, the population density may be higher or much higher in Manhattan, but the population access to the chiropractor downtown Manhattan still might be higher. But we're talking geography here. So a service area is defined by geography, but it's also defined by industry. A courier company services all of Chicagoland, where a dentist, somebody will likely only drive 5 miles, at least in my area. So it's also defined by industry. But what happens here? Here's a differentiating factor. What about that chiropractor that is highly specialized and spends extra time with his patients, and gives their children a lollipop and goes above and beyond the means? In other words, has extremely satisfied patients that are very, very happy, above the norm. And they build their practice up quickly and big because it's the busy restaurant syndrome. In other words, they're a good business. How does reviews, of course that's going to be reflected in review quality, but what if there's patients that are choosing to drive farther than the average patient because that chiropractor is so good? Should that chiropractor then be rewarded and have a bigger service area than the standard? Well, of course they should. And they do. And that's why when businesses start to rank higher and you've given them 6 months to get ranked number 1, well, at that point in time, you can continue to retain the relationship of that client because you're now expanding not only from their core keywords, you are now beginning to generate rankings for their modifying keywords, their core modifiers, which in my case of a doctor are conditions and symptoms, right? But you're also increasing their service area. So reviews increase your service area. That in the case of Chicagoland, for example, you could go 2-3 towns out. You could double your standardized service area based off of reviews. And so we try to encourage and work with your clients to encourage patients that drive a far distance to leave reviews. That is your biggest one. If you can find patients that are outside of your standard service area or customers that are on Yelp, that are friends with your clients on Facebook and have at least 10 reviews on Yelp, do whatever the fuck you need to do to get a review from that person. And part of my language, I'm genuinely trying to emphasize my point there. Do whatever you can do to get that one review. If there's one review that small business is going to get all quarter, get that one review. That is the gold. And that's going to dramatically, that review in itself could outweigh 20 reviews from competitors. It's got everything going for it. All right, so I spent a little bit of time on that. All right. Bright Local frequently releases a variety of data. They survey a variety of different businesses. I've shared with you my opinions and thoughts on the statistical analysis of their data. For a variety of different reasons, their data has high margins of error. They do not employ standardized sample sizes and standardized population sizes that you would typically follow in statistics. In other words, according to statisticians, their data typically would be rendered statistically invalid. So we've got to take the data that we get from their reports with a grain of salt, but there's really no organization in our industry today that goes to the degree of getting an effective sample size to be able to get a good amount of data to give us a picture of what the small and medium marketplace really is in the United States or globally. In addition to that, there are so many variances on a global front in terms of adoption rates, for example, of mobile usage, that you'd have to collect this data on a geographical basis as well to get validity on it. The reason why I say that is, if we go back a couple of calls and we were talking about the usage of mobile data, on average, 60% of searches are on mobile devices for local businesses. But when you get into the centroid of any of the major metropolitan areas, that's almost as high as 80%. When you get into rural areas, it could drop as low as 20%. Think about being on the island of Newfoundland, Canada, and you need to go find a local place. Those fishermen and those farmers aren't pulling out their phones. They're using different means to find local businesses. But in any event, I just wanted to demonstrate that. So with this data here, like this question here, what percentage of your marketing budget is spent on mobile marketing? Well, how does a small business answer that? I'm an internet marketer, and I've been in this industry for over 10 years, and I can't answer that. How do they get this data? What percentage of your marketing budget is spent on mobile marketing? Well, mobile marketing is not a channel or an entity on its own. If I'm deploying marketing is creating content, right? And it's creating content that is consumed by an audience, whether it's a business card or a billboard or a radio ad or an article that goes on the internet or a profile on Google, it's all content. So marketing is content. Mobile marketing would then be content that's on mobile devices. So if that's a channel on its own and I create a piece that's displayed on a mobile device, why would that piece not be displayed on my laptop? Because if it is, it's no longer a mobile marketing channel. And if I'm creating content that is to be consumed by channels like, let's say, Facebook, Facebook is a channel. But Facebook is displayed on mobile devices and desktop devices, even public devices. So where does Facebook fit? Does only half of your Facebook marketing initiatives fit into mobile and the other half what? So, that question in itself was a little bit skewed. But if we assume that mobile marketing was internet marketing, because perception is also reality, right? And small business owners, ask 10 small business owners what their opinion of search engine optimization is. You're going to get 10 different answers. So this does give us a perspective, though, at least in terms of what industries ultimately are going to be spending more money into online initiatives. Interestingly, the largest sector that's going to spend most amount of money on internet marketing is web designers and marketing businesses. Do you guys see some irony here? Doesn't that kind of scare you a little bit? That the one sector that's going to spend the most money on the internet is the sector that's trying to get everybody else to spend a whole much money on the internet? I don't know. That kind of a big disconnect there for me. Compared to the retail sector, which I think that this is nailed. I think that this is accurate. That the retail sector is the least likely sector to spend on internet marketing or mobile channels. And I've said this many of times that there's just certain types of businesses I can't go after. I don't want to go after restaurants. Could they benefit from SEO? Of course they could. But for what I believe is required to deliver the service, I can't deliver that service effectively for a couple $100 a month. And I don't feel like that I can generate the effective return on investment for the amount of revenue we have to charge. So I don't know if there's really a lot of opportunity for the retail sector online. I mean, we're not talking about Google products. I think there's a lot of opportunity in Google products for the retail sector. But that's not discussed in this survey, which again is going to skew with the data. But again, it's giving us a perspective. It's arguable that the largest increase of spend for internet marketing is in the marketing and web design industry. It is arguable that that is understandable because they understand the channels. They know how to get a good return on investment, and so they invest into it. That's what's arguable, but in reality, I challenge anybody that is listening to this to be able to showcase a true automated lead gen system without having traditional means involved. I don't personally think that it is feasible. I think us as human beings just need to consume relationships face to face. We have to. Emotion is not conveyed through words. We know that. And we live and breathe off of our emotions. So it just doesn't make sense to me that you can advance relationships very far without emotional elements. Therefore, you need traditional means. the internet's not everything for these businesses. And I also know with all of my students and successes internally that it doesn't make sense. I think there's a disconnect. I really do. I think Bright Local's got this. I think they've got some of the data right, but this spells tremendous amounts of opportunity for us as marketers. I think our industry is still way off. Now, in terms of increased spend into internet marketing, this also gives us some insight in terms of different industries and whatnot. And tradesmen are the least likely to spend on internet marketing. Now, this is a high-value service. Especially for the B2C marketplace, the business-to-consumer marketplace, I find that very ironic. I think there are opportunities that would just possibly mean harder sales, but mostly in the construction area as well, which is also in alignment with, in the United States, the construction industry has pretty much disappeared. But tradesmen currently spend about 40% of their budget online, and it's projected to increase by about 4%. Now, in terms of perception, which industry is perceived to get the most return? And this is what I found interesting, is because according to this, and Bright Local comes out and says, okay, it's great to see that these marketing companies are the biggest sector in spending in online marketing for their budget. But at the same time, 93% of the medical world say internet marketing helps us. But only 45% of marketers out there say that their internet marketing budget is actually helping them. Guys, isn't this just a big red stop sign? Like, aren't the light bulbs going off with these people? Why isn't the internet marketing, the local internet marketing industry writing about this right now? This to me is a really big deal, that almost 80% of you guys are saying we're spending all our money on the internet. We're the biggest sector out there that's spending money on it because it's great. But only 40% of you are saying that it actually works? What the fuck? How many morons are internet marketers that are out there that are wasting their time, spending their time in all these different electronic means and saying, oh, it doesn't work, but I'm spending more money on it. And we're proud to be the greatest industry of it all. We're probably the stupidest industry in terms of internet marketing. According to these statistics, there's a lot of moronic internet marketers that are out there, in my opinion. How is that possible, guys, that our industry spends the most on internet marketing, but it's our industry that says it is the least effective for our business? The tradesmen have it better than us. They know how to run and build businesses better than us, at least according to these statistics. Thanks, Bright Local. Maybe I'll write about it. You're getting me fueled up here. I'm getting fueled up. And again, just a little bit of last things here in terms of perception of the internet tools that are out there. And this just, again, supports the arguments that I've been just giving here. And 6 out of 10 marketers and 6 out of 10 of those in the medical field feel a positive sense in terms of Google Plus or Google My Business of how it works. Okay, so again, a good portion of you are supporting of how it works, but a good portion of you said it doesn't work. How can you say both, guys? Why are you guys filling these surveys out, giving them conflicting data? But when we look at the industries that have negativity about it, the insurance industry, big one, the real estate industry, the attorney industry. Do you guys know a theme between those three industries? I've talked about them in the past. Those are the three industries that have gotten nailed the hardest between all the updates. Why? Those three industries also have the highest cost per click in Google's AdWords. Why? Because they are the most competitive. Those industries also have the most black hat strategies being employed in local SEO because they are competitive. So, I mean, with this data, I'm coming up with a few different things here about our industry. It's very clear that internet marketers, just based off of these numbers, it's very clear as a general consensus that internet marketers are very confused about Google Plus Local and how it operates. At least a third of you, according to this data, as well as the small business owners are as well. Google hasn't made a lot of improvements since 2009. 6 years into this game, and nobody has effective solutions. Why? There's big money going into it. All right, the last thing I want to talk about quickly is some rich media and the Google Knowledge Graph. And the Google Knowledge Graph inevitably has changed significantly and improved quite a bit. And yeah, I'll go on my tangent and talk about AI. And I feel like that the Knowledge Graph ultimately is moving towards that. I feel like and believe that the search engines really want to answer our questions before we ask them. I know it's kind of a scary concept, but there's definitely a tremendous amount of anticipated movements and data and thought that we have as human beings that could be analyzed by an electronic device and anticipate our next action. You know, we're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence now in automobiles. And, you know, even 10 years ago, we were seeing it when you'd put a cruise control on and a car would automatically slow down and, you know, it anticipate movements and whatnot. And so Google now ultimately is moving towards an AI environment for search. Well, the Knowledge Graph was Google's version of the social graph of Facebook. And Google's Knowledge Graph has surpassed that of Apple in terms of searches, at least according. I haven't utilized both devices, so I can't give a educated opinion on it, but I can definitely share the opinions of a consensus of experts on the internet. And the Knowledge Graph that Google has developed surpasses that in terms of Windows and Apple's version in terms of answering questions and researching that particular data. Now, Google has just incorporated rich medical content into the Knowledge Graph. Here's a statistic that blew me away. According to Google, 1 in 20 searches, 5% of all Google searches are all health related. Think about that one for a moment. If you work with dentists, massage therapists, chiropractors, medical doctors, anything to do within that field, 5% of all searches are looking for health-related information. This, to me, spells opportunities for us. How many content publishers are writing about gluten-free toothpaste in our area? Not a lot. That data, all you need to do is show a few social signals with that particular content, and that data is going to show up for the long tail keywords. These are going to be keywords that have a core term, a core modifier, and possibly a geomod in it, but more so the core modifiers. And that's the trick here, folks. When you identify all of your core modifiers with your clients, in other words, you ask your clients, what are the questions that consumers are asking when they're looking for answers to whether or not they're going to buy your product or service? That's the content that needs to be created. And that content is what's going to show up in the organic listings. We're not talking about the local listings and the maps, not the embedded listings. This is how you cannibalize or monopolize the listings, the organic listings for local searches, and you answer the questions that people are ultimately asking. Okay. So that comes to the conclusion of this week's update, guys. I'm going to take 30 seconds right now, and I will be back and answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.